Very good. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
All right, testing. Thinking everyone can hear me. Awesome. All right, first I want to thank you all for having me speak today. We have had a tremendous amount of success with meetups. This is like my favorite activity to do. It gives us an opportunity to actually speak with people that are out in the field doing the real work. So I'm hoping you can appreciate the content I will deliver to you today. Also want to supply some deference. Thank you for Microsoft for inviting us. This is once again a great opportunity to showcase our partnership. I want to thank, and where's Andrew from Planet? Thank you, Andrew, for helping out in getting this introduction necessary. I even want to thank AIS for some of the amazing things that we've done with them towards Azure Government. But what I'm hoping to display for you guys today is really a bit of a perception change. So how many of you guys have actually heard of Barracuda Networks? Just raise your hand. That's awesome. Thank you for that. How many of you actually knew we had a presence in the public cloud? All right. That's even better, because at least it gives me an opportunity to show you guys what we've been doing in the public cloud and give you an opportunity to see, how we've been able to really change what we've been able to do in the marketplace. Also, to supply some deference, I believe the link was free to everyone, so I want to say hi to my wife and kids. My wife is used to me traveling and thinking that this is all about wine and steak and whiskey, but this is really an opportunity for me to speak with you guys and tell you about what we get a chance to do. So once again, thank you for the audience. So when we think about Barracuda, especially as it pertains over to Azure and Azure Gov, we've been trailblazing a lot. In case you guys aren't familiar, we were the very first ISV in the Azure Marketplace. So literally when it was just Azure Gallery, I don't know if you guys have been in Azure for that long, but when it was Azure Gallery and there was only 6 partners, or 6 or 7, we were actually one of the first. As it stands today, we've been driving so much consumption within the Azure Marketplace, and that's why Microsoft loves us. We drive so much consumption, drive so much revenue. But as it stands today, we also have, in between Azure Gov and Azure Commercial, around 2,500 customers in the marketplace alone, and that's more than any of our competition combined. So it just shows the experience that we've been able to gain in the public cloud and how that's catapulted us to a different level when you talk about what we've been able to do as far as security. If you look at the top, what's also really cool, we've gotten a lot of merit badges. If you guys are familiar with Pokemon, we got a lot of gym badges when it comes down to our solutions. So we've literally done everything you can possibly do in the Azure Marketplace to gain some sort of preference to make sure that when you're looking at Azure, when you're looking at security, you can think about Barracuda as well. And as a part of all of that, as it turns out, we actually won 2016 ISV Partner of the Year. That was a global award, and that just came, once again, due to how much consumption we've been able to drive in the Azure Marketplace, but also how often we've been able to solve the security solution when a customer says, hey, I'm in Azure Gov, where do I go, what do I do? You can go to Barracuda. And also, some really cool things we've been able to do, even in Azure Gov, whether it's the Department of Education, whether it's state and local, whether it's different partners that are looking at risk and compliance, we've been able to tap in so many different areas that I'm hoping you guys are familiar with, and afterwards we can talk about different use cases as well. So I also want to talk about a little bit of the mentality that we've actually taken as a company, and it's really been about how can we adapt to the public cloud. We didn't take our data center mindset and say, we're going to do a lift and shift of everything we thought at the data center level, and we're just going to see if that works in the cloud. As you've probably seen that work, and probably your examples, if you've dealt with incumbent vendors and you tried to put them in the public cloud, doesn't really work that well. What we decided to do was say, hey, Azure, how do you want us to work in the public cloud? How do you want us to develop our solutions? And as it turns out, before the end of the year, most, if not all of our solutions will actually be built in the public cloud, specifically in Azure. And once again, that's just been the mindset that we've taken, where we didn't want to, think about what we did at the data center level. Everything that we want to build going forward has to do with the public cloud, because that's what the industry is going, regardless of what industry or thing you're in, whether it's healthcare, whether it's Azure Gov, whether it's financial services. We wanted to make sure that we were very forward-leaning and making sure that when it comes down to the public cloud, that all of our solutions were there and we're fitting the right use cases. So as a part of that mentality, and I'll just advance this quickly here, once again, when you think about the left, that was really the mindset of a lot of data center vendors. The biggest boxes are going to cost the most price. They're going to bring you the better features because you paid X amount of money. And, it was feature heavy. It was not orchestrated at all, and it was pretty expensive. And when it came down to moving over to the cloud, a lot of that changed, where depending on the marketplace, you wanted to do pay as you go. Depending on the marketplace, you wanted to do, different forms of transactions. And also, depending on the marketplace, you wanted to be able to scale. So as a background, when it came down to Barracuda, once again, we didn't really build our solutions from a data center mindset. In fact, all of our solutions were fairly Intel-based. So when it came down to moving over to the public cloud, it was very easy to make that transition. So, when a customer came to us and said, hey, how do you deploy in a single NIC or multi-NIC scenario, we can say both. Where a lot of other vendors, they pretty much stuck to their style at the data center level, which drove, expensive solutions, pretty much put vendors in a pigeonhole scenario where I'm going to sell you a bigger box that causes you to buy bigger compute, and you pretty much have to do that because we are the vendor. Where we said, no, we want to say, hey, Azure, what do you want us to do? That's how we'll supply for the customer. And no matter what it costs, even if it's at, a fraction of the price for competition, that was our go-to-market strategy, because we felt as though if we can at least fit into what Microsoft allows us to do and get to more customers at a better price and even at a better feature set, it will produce a better result, and that's exactly what it did from the customers that we have. So one thing I want you guys to realize is that when it comes down to Barracuda and our mindset, we've taken the left and said, no, we don't want to do that anymore, and we want to take advantage of everything that the cloud has to offer. So when we speak about the various use cases that we actually have in the public cloud, our first product that really got us to the market today has been our CloudGen Firewall. So you really want to think about it from a perimeter firewall mindset, where the first use case came, hey, at a network level, I want to make sure I have IPS, IDS, and I want my network layer secure. Perfect, we got you. But then we also came across a lot of customers that were establishing VPN tunnels. So I need to set up a VPN tunnel to my firewall on-prem. I need to do it across Azure regions. I needed to do it across, multiple clouds. Whatever that came across, we can supply that. But we also wanted to supply some familiarity. So if you're establishing a multi-tier network architecture, our best way to get you there, at least for us at the beginning, was the quickest to do a single NIC. Now, I know in highly regulated industries that may change. You have a multi-NIC scenario because you have to do that, and that's where the industry is pushing you towards. We can do that as well. But once again, what I want to display to you is that we had that flexibility from the very beginning where other vendors did not. Also, whether you were looking at URL filtering or you're looking at ATP protection, those are things that are also included within our products, but also the different access to resources. So if you had a client-to-site tunnel, if you had a site-to-site tunnel, if you're looking at SSL VPN, those are all things we can do at a base level with our products. And also, to be very clear, most of our public cloud use cases that you'll find within Barracuda fit exactly what you need to do, whether you're looking at Azure Government or you're looking at Azure Commercial. There has also been a competitive differentiation with us. It was the fact that, hey, if you wanted X amount of VPNs, if you wanted X amount of throughput, we just used the backbone of Azure to supply you that. We didn't say, hey, just because you wanted 50 VPNs, we're going to charge you an extra price. Just because you wanted extra throughput, we're going to charge you an extra price. Of course, we have a delineation between what that specific compute can handle. But for the most part, if you're looking at a public cloud use case, you use our products and that's it. You pay for it and you're good. Now, the other piece of that, and you look at the network layer, once again, that's usually the basic foundation. You have to look at the application layer as well. And that's really where the industry is going, where a lot of people are just throwing up applications into the public cloud and saying, I'm secure. Turns out you're actually not. So for us, web application security was at first a big problem, and it turned into a really big opportunity. And I want to poll the audience today. How many apps do you think are actually protected by a WAF today? If you had to throw a percentage out there, what do you think? 30? I got 30? 40? You've seen this slide before. Yeah, in the same industry, you're right. 10% of apps are actually protected by a web application firewall today. So think about this. You're a customer. You're building your app. And you're like, yeah, let's go ahead and get this up, and we're ready. Let's go, let's go. A lot of times your mindset isn't really about how that application is secure. Your mindset is, I need to hurry up and get this to Azure because so-and-so is telling me this needs to hurry up and get to Azure. So a lot of times you aren't even looking at a WAF to give you that necessary protection. And this for us is a huge opportunity where, of course, once again, the perimeter is awesome, VPN connectivity, all of that is going to be always there. But if you have an application that is moved to the public cloud, there's a good chance that whoever is making those decisions didn't actually put a web application firewall in place. So when we look at our use cases for the web application firewall, first, and this changed fairly recently, I guess you can say within a year, we're not just looking at the OWASP top 10 anymore, it's the OWASP top 20. So if you're looking at the advanced bot protection and a lot of things that offers, you have to think more about how your applications are protected in the public cloud, but you also have to think about, what am I doing about my data and data loss? So for regulated industries, I've seen partners and customers look at this feature alone. If I have social security numbers, credit card numbers, employee IDs, anything of the like that needs to be protected, our web application firewall can actually do that. And then you're looking at application DDoS, which becomes a phenomenal use case. I have, a bunch of different bots that are just made up, and they want to attack my system to make sure that my users can't get in as well. And then we also have our advanced threat protection and malware protection that's associated with that as well. But the main thing is application security, securing the OWASP top 10, now the OWASP top 20, and making sure that any sensitive data that you have in the public cloud is now protected. And what's also really cool is a means of really throwing our weight around of how we wanted to establish ourselves in the industry. We actually have a free service called the Barracuda Vulnerability Remediation Service that whether you're in Azure, whether you're in a private cloud, or whether you're at the data center level, this will scan all of the applications, report the vulnerabilities, and actually remediate them on the web application firewall. So what it will do is it will take a scan, determine what's wrong, and if you have a web application firewall, automatically supply that remediation. Really cool tool that, once again, is actually free and that you can use right now if you go to our site and say, hey, I need to check my applications no matter where they are and determine what the vulnerabilities are. And if I have, once again, a web application firewall in place, it can supply that automatic remediation. Now, we talked about network security. We talked about application security. The next step for us was really thinking about, you can have a lot of different security tools in place. Even TJ said, many companies that we've come across. I mean, I was dealing with a customer yesterday in financial services, actually, where they had Barracuda, they had Checkpoint, and they had Palo Alto. So many different projects, many different use cases. And yeah, Barracuda can supply them all, but because of that customer, they decided to go with different vendors for whatever the case they wanted to choose. But the point I'm trying to make is that no matter how many solutions you have in place, what's happening now is not if you have the right solution in place, but what happens if you have a customer misconfiguration? What happens if credentials are mismanaged? No matter what you have in place, all of that goes out of the window if you don't have something watching you to make sure that you don't fall out of line. And that's when we have Cloud Security Guardian, which is an awesome product for us because we've taken two different mindsets. We've taken the builder's mentality that always wanted the agility. You wanted to say, hey, I need automation in place. I need to make sure that, no matter how fast I build, it's always going to be secure. As a developer, I want to build as fast as I want to, and I want to make sure those guardrails are in place. But then we took the CISO mindset that says, I need visibility to everything we're doing to make sure that if something is built and I don't know, that I have visibility to that. I want to make sure it falls into the right compliance, whether it's NIST, whether it's CIS. But then I also want to make sure that automatic remediation is in place too. So the main mentality we took with this product was that the cloud is dramatically changing. And it's changing so fast that sometimes you can't even keep those misconfigurations in place. So with us, gaining the visibility to everything that's built in real time, all the time, and making sure their alerting happens is extremely key. And what's also really key is that I can give you a board, I can give you a dashboard that says you messed up. And I can give you a bunch of red marks and all of that is cool, but it's another thing to actually do the automatic remediation. So with our product, which is pretty awesome, is that we can deploy native solutions, especially the the Azure Firewall or the Azure WAF, or we can deploy our own solution. In fact, we actually have a large retail organization today, sorry, it's not government, but we have a large retail organization today that is just using Cloud Security Guardian just to deploy Azure Firewalls. And what that partner is doing today with that customer is they're saying, hey, every time you deploy an Azure Firewall, I know for that VNet, you ask for more. You need X amount of throughput. You need this amount of security, et cetera, and so forth. So they're jumping back to that customer for every single VNet, every single project to say, what is Barracuda doing to be able to help you out here? So this is a great opportunity to not only deploy things automatically just to hit that plug, but also a great opportunity to go further with security with a product and with a company that has devoted themselves over to Azure. And then when we look at policy enforcement, this is also extremely key. So for us, at a baseline, this product is CIS benchmark certified. So, at the base level or framework, there's a bunch of listing that CIS for Azure says, hey, you got to follow this, 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 and this, and we're able to do that. But if we need to tie it down to GDPR, if we need to tie it down to NIST, if we need to tie it down to ISO and a few other compliances, we can make sure we do that as well, and those are automatically preloaded. And what's also really cool about this solution is you can customize those frameworks. So say, for instance, you're a partner or a customer that says, hey, we thought about NIST, we thought about CIS, and we thought about all these things. How do I put them into one framework that is specific for me? And how can I make sure that I'm meeting that compliance? Because as a company, these are all the things that we're looking at. And for us, that's been an extreme differentiator. And one of the things that we also want to eliminate, as I talked about before, is the configuration drift. So once again, I'm a developer and I don't have security in mind. I just want to get the application out of the door. This has been an awesome product to make sure that you're always remaining in compliance no matter how fast you want to build. In fact, one of the slogans for this product is build fast, stay secure. So this is, once again, great option for us here at Barracuda to consider if you're at the network layer, if you're at the application layer, and no matter amongst those layers you want to stay secure, you have a bunch of different products to be able to do it. So with that, I thank you guys. I appreciate your time, and I think it may be time for the panel.